Hi, Dr. Andreas. Welcome to our Big Unlock podcast. I'm the host, Ritu M. Oberoi, and managing partner here at Big Brio and Demo. And really happy to have you on the show. Very exciting. Lots of good stuff to talk about. So, ready to get started. And let's start with your introduction and welcome once again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk, to connect. It's amazing. So thank you so much.
Yeah. So we always like to start with a little bit of background just to ask, how you got into the healthcare space, how you got
Yeah.
into this behavioral, psychology space, and with all the tech that you've been seeing. So at the intersection of tech and, your field, how, you felt comfortable merging the two and how did you get into that intersection? So let's start with that.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because this intersection didn't used to exist when I was coming up in my career. And I think if you really want to rewind the story, it goes back to when I was an adolescent,
Hmm.
who was obsessed with fixing people's computers, fixing my computer. Anything I could do in tech, as an adolescent was really, really, really exciting. And I also love talking to people and connecting with people. So I've always had these two passions. And I remember back when I had to decide if I wanted to go into computer programming or psychology, and I decided to go the psychology route because it was harder. And I thought, all right, let me do the thing that's harder now that I'm younger, and
Right.
then potentially merge them later on when, later on in my life. Throughout my career, I've done a lot with traumatic brain injury, helping folks with traumatic, where I've really understood how the brain works, and I've done that through a whole bunch of different lenses, um, all through sort of finishing up with my training and then starting working at a VA hospital doing primarily PTSD research. Uh,
Mhm.
um, uh, and it wasn't until I think 2014 when I really was looking for a new challenge.
Yeah.
And as a psychologist, then I kind of cast a really wide net. I wasn't only looking for hospital jobs for psychologists or therapy, I really, really cast a wide net. And I stumbled across a position at Noom that
Mhm.
had to do with groups. And I don't think I looked too closely at the position. I think I just saw something psychology related at a tech company.
Right.
And I knew somebody in my network who knew somebody there, and I said, "Hey, do you know anything about this role?" She didn't know too much, so she asked me to, she put me in touch with somebody at Noom, and I realized through the course of the interview that the position was actually for an undergraduate contractor part-time, and I was there, a PhD graduate, with family, and I was like, so after about a million interviews, they essentially created a job for me out of thin air, and so
Amazing.
that's when it started. When I started to bridge my passion for psychology and technology, at Noom. When I was there for about a decade, a little bit over a decade officially, and I did a lot of really high impact stuff there. I started the coaching team. I built it from the ground up.
Mhm.
Hired the first coach, and we scaled the team to 3,000 at one point. I
Amazing.
started the behavioral science team, did a lot
Yeah.
of research, published a bunch of stuff, and I did whatever I could to really connect the product with behavior change, with psychology. We were the first ever digital provider to receive full CDC recognition for the diabetes prevention program. All stuff that I sort of worked on. So yeah, my passion has always been merging
Uh-huh.
psychology with technology in whatever unique way possible.
Yeah, that's an amazing journey. I think it must be so fulfilling to see, your work impacting so many people across the world, and especially with, weight loss and obesity, which is like such a huge problem. And I mean, anything that can help lasting change and, behavioral change is very hard. But I think because you were able to impact that. What do you think, which are the psychological principles that prove most effective in helping the Noom users sustain these healthy habits long term, and where do you think it still fell short? Like you talked about the coaching program, you what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So, we really saw a lot of good signal when it comes to providing education, but in a mindful, bite-sized kind of way.
Okay.
And the combination of accountability with education and really trying our best to meet people where they're at
Hmm.
was really the thing that I think made the difference for a lot of people.
Hmm.
When I sort of started when I left Noom to do some other stuff and now I'm doing some stuff at Google. I think I there's another element of AI which started blowing up as I was on my way out, which was something that didn't really exist when I was doing all the things that I was doing at Noom. And that opportunity to really meet people where they're at and provide them with um truly personalized care that really adapts with them over time, because remember, health is very cyclical for a lot of people. It's not most people don't practice the same health behaviors consistently over time, and so something that is able to be cyclical, I think, is really, really powerful. Now, Noom, things have changed at Noom, I think, in the sense that, and I don't want to speak for Noom, I'm no longer there now. But I think the GLP-1s have really changed the
Yeah.
landscape of the industry, and what people prefer, and so on and so forth. But even with GLP-1s, there is an element of lifestyle change that has to go hand in hand with anything with the medications as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Mhm.
yeah, so I mean, I think the thing that I'm really passionate about has been doing this stuff at scale with an LLM, and now that's beyond weight loss. And I wouldn't say obesity and weight loss is my sort of like area of passion. I think my area of passion is really any way to apply behavior change principles in real world settings to help people live better lives, whatever that means, is really where I gravitate towards.
Yeah. Awesome. That's a perfect lead into my next question, which was if you could rebuild this kind of app with the technologies that exist today. Like you said, the LLMs and the personalized stuff wasn't there today. Today we have voice agents, we have, agentic, we have
Oh yeah.
new stuff happening. So if you could reimagine, an app, we're not saying Noom, but like a healthcare app, like you said, at the intersection of these two fields to really
Yeah.
impact public health or to really improve the lives of people. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you think, like everybody talks about this as being, a generational, like a very significant change in the way healthcare is going to be
Yeah.
perceived or seen? Would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different areas, and I'm also really excited about the shift that's going to happen with wearables over the next 10 years. I think there will
Okay.
be a tremendous amount of variation in how people consume electronics and how health
Mhm.
data it comes into the day to day for people.
Mhm.
So that being said, I think about technology, and not technology now straight up with ChatGPT because it's not there yet, but technology that truly adapts with what your needs are. So understands where you're at, assesses you where you're at in a way that is above and beyond your subjective experience, but also pieces together through time and memory and contextual awareness what's going on in your life, and what help you might need at that moment. And then based on that assessment, that really complex assessment that I don't think humans can even fathom right now because our brains are not sophisticated enough to actually be able to do it.
Yeah.
Based on that assessment, then shifting to what is the thing that might actually help, or what is the actual intervention that might actually help somebody. And maybe the intervention is do nothing. in that moment. Maybe the intervention is do not float an idea or something or assess for readiness now
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that's not the right time to do it. And sometimes knowing when not to say something is actually more important than when you do say something. We know that in psychology, if somebody is in sort of one stage of change and you try to push them towards something when they're not in the right mindset, that you can actually be helping take away some of their motivation that they're cultivating. And so having a technology that can A, assess really accurately, and then B, respond even more accurately, I think is really where we're headed. And on top of that, and I'll say one last thing about this. On top of that, I think we're all developing uh relationships with our technology in very, very, very unique ways. And
Yes.
the kind of foundation of psychology when it comes to one-on-one therapy or coaching or whatever the case is relationship. And so there is a relationship that's being formed with AI, some good, some maybe not so good. But I think there's a real therapeutic effect that will come from these kind of relationships over time. And, that's not to say, like our generation, I think it's a little bit weird, but I'm not even thinking about us. I'm thinking about like our kids who will not
Mhm.
know anything else. It'll be normative for
So
them.
native. Yeah.
Right, it'll be native. It'll be it'll be a generational norm to
Mhm.
speak to and to have this kind of, observation. And I think in the right hands and in the right done really well, it can be a really earth-changing positive thing that will come from all this new technology.
Yeah, I think those are really good observations, and they lead to a lot of interesting questions about ethics, about governance. And,
Of course.
I was just reading a news article today that said that the state of Illinois is banning, AI therapists. And they were like, the state doesn't know any different, but what about if people don't have access to any therapist? So, is having an AI therapist better, or is it better to not have any access at all to care? So it raises like all these questions. So, what are your thoughts, or what do you feel about those kind of issues that come up?
Yeah.
You're talking to a machine, where you're developing a relationship with a machine, but it's at the end of the day, it's a machine, it's not a human. And the point, like you said, is to form a relationship, to build that trust, but you're actually building that trust with something that can't actually reciprocate. So how do you feel
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I mean, my view on this is maybe a little controversial in that, I think we form relationships with different things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not sort of looking at it as like good or bad. I think
Okay.
contextually is what really, really makes the impact. If I think about the ratio of mental health providers to
Exactly.
population, where I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about 10,000 to 1 here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not in the United States. That's globally. That's around the entire world. And so there is nothing we will ever be able to do to make to meet that mental health need within the world. And there are literal deserts in this country that not even in this country, sorry, internationally, that
Mm-hmm.
there's literally nobody that can help. And so when I think about, is it better to have an LLM develop relationships with people to heal them because I
Yes.
think it's possible versus have them, oh well, just like good luck. No, I actually do think that it is better to train an LLM to do it really, really well. Now, I think we're not there yet. I think what drives me crazy is when I hear like, "Oh, ChatGPT is my therapist," and I think
Yeah.
that really drives me crazy because it's not your therapist. Asking good questions and knowing what to say to make you feel good is not what therapy is, and I
Mhm.
think it actually does more damage to populate that belief because there are people who actually do need therapy, with an actual therapist who know how to navigate the nuances of a diagnosis, and
Yeah.
ChatGPT cannot do that right now.
Mhm.
It can give an illusion, but that's absolutely not what it's to do. Now, I do think I do see a lot of technology that's being developed right now that has a pathway to that, where LLMs are given safeguards and are really developed in an ethical, therapeutically, empirically validated sort of foundation. And those technologies that are going to start popping up, and they already have started popping up. And I'm not talking about what's popped up now, but I'm saying the ones that you're going to see within the next 3 years dominate this space. I think
Okay.
those I'm very, very happy about and passionate about because they're done in a very, very, very different way. So I didn't hear about the thing that happened in Illinois, and I'm not surprised because whenever there's a new technology, people don't know what to do with it. Some panic, some are happy with it. I think when the tractor was first developed, people were freaking out because it was gonna take away their jobs. And so, eventually there's a state of yeah, initially there's always a state of disarray, but we will find a homeostasis within society. And I think ultimately things will be better. Well, some things will be better. We'll have new problems, but I think some things will be much better.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. That humans need time to, become familiar with new technologies. Although I've heard the
Yes.
counter argument to this that, in Yuval Noah Harari's book, that it's wrong to compare it with tractors or the radio or, those kind of tools because those couldn't think for themselves. Whereas, I mean, they were propagating content that humans had generated, but not
Yeah.
developing content on their own, which is, the key difference here with LLMs. So,
It's scary. Yeah, you're right. It's absolutely scary. I mean, even if you think about this as sort of like the next step in a technology where we just genuinely don't know what's going to happen. You're right. An
yeah,
LLM that can think for themselves and form experiments and test hypotheses on it, it
yeah.
is it is terrifying. So just to be clear, I'm also mildly terrified of where some of this stuff is going, and we do need the right governance in place. Otherwise, it could be a very slippery slope. That's right.
Yeah, but that's also the thing that we have to recognize that just wishing it away or saying that it's not going to happen, that's not going to happen either. We have
That's
to be
right.
very cognizant of the fact that it's coming. These are the issues, these are the hallucinations, these are the pitfalls. Then once you know what's coming, then you can deal with it better. But being
That's right.
ignorant or saying that, this is not going to happen, that won't leave us protected by any means.
And
Uh,
it's a global issue. It's a global issue because I think there's a race internationally now to do this. And so it's one of these really unique challenges that, I wish our country and the world was a lot more connected on this stuff.
mhm.
But it's a world changing problem that has to be addressed. That's exactly right.
Absolutely. So, Andres, would you like to tell us a little bit more about your work at Google or where you see the next big opportunity for this intersection between technology and psychology and, uh, other than the LLMs? Where do you think
Yeah,
the next big opportunity is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk too deeply about some of the stuff that I'm doing at Google, but at Google, I do have an opportunity to once again merge psychology with technology, specifically with LLMs and helping with behavior change and shape how how some of this technology helps people
Mhm.
change their behavior for it related to health. So it's exciting. I'm very stimulated and excited to see how this stuff is done within. Noom was not a big tech company.
Mhm.
It was a tech, but I'm excited to personally have the experience and being able to shape technology that will literally impact millions and millions and millions of people. And I
Uh-huh.
think that really helps me, sleep at night really, really, really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea is that technology is coming out that will help people in the millions. And again, I think I hinted this earlier. I'm really excited to see the new evolution of wearable technology and specifically there's this I think I see this race across many tech companies now for something that will potentially replace a phone
Yes.
at something, right? And I do think it is coming. I do think that glasses are coming that are going to give us perception of the world and also help bridge the outside world with the inside world very, very, very differently. So I'm not working on that right now, but I'm personally excited to see where that shapes out within tech. Um, and then, I think in medicine and in psychology, the some of the work that's happening across many companies to help clinicians have better insights or to see things that maybe they normally would not see is also something I'm really, really, really excited about right now. Even with radiologists who have help via an LLM to spot things that normally they might not be able to spot, even though there's a lot of false positives. I think this stuff is only going to get better and better and better. So I think all professions are going to get this superpower that's going to help them. And I think the consequence of this, or I'm hoping the consequence of this in my naive optimism, is that we get to save more lives and people get to live better lives.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome insight. And I think that's one of the definite strengths of an LLM, the pattern matching and the, summarization and the pattern recognition. So
Definitely.
yesterday we had a podcast guest who was just telling us about his work at the NICU. And he said that,
Mm.
the neonatal intensive care unit,
Yeah,
he said the babies there are so sick sometimes. And he said with this, the predictive analytics that they've built with machine learning, if the system can tell the system can buy even like an hour of time, it can tell the doctors 1 hour ahead of time
amazing.
that this baby is going to get sick. And if they can preemptively, start an IV or do something, it could be the difference between, saving the baby's life. And he said that's been so satisfying to see that happen. So yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. The predictive analytics part is going to be really big, coming up.
I just got goosebumps as you were talking.
Yeah,
I literally just felt goosebumps because this is the kind of stuff that is only going to get better and better and better over time. And, it's such, I just feel so grateful to be alive during this moment in our history to see all of
absolutely.
this amazing tech coming out. But yeah, it's so amazing. It's so amazing.
Great. So we're almost at the end of the podcast. Would you like to share some closing thoughts with our listeners? Anything you would like to tell people, any advice you have for people who are looking for this intersection between their fields, how to go about it, or what would you like to say at the end?
Yeah, I mean, I think for practitioners
Mhm.
who might be interested in merging some of these two fields together, my biggest advice, and I mentor some other folks who are trying to do stuff like this, is that many times these opportunities are not posted in a job somewhere. They're not. It's very difficult to come across, but you have to sort of put yourself out there and explore things that are outside of your comfort zone. And I think one other thing that has been one of the clearest learnings that I've had in tech, and merging the two is more often than not, it's not a matter of just applying the thing that I know. It's more often unlearning stuff that maybe I learned about in school and learning how to almost apply something in a
New.
completely unique way. And I see a lot of people, professionals, struggle with that jump from being able to sort of be the expert who knows the thing to being the person who tries to figure out the new thing using their knowledge
Mhm.
of what is, as a foundation or a starting point for hypotheses. So, if you're interested in getting into a different career that merges the two, I think having that openness and ability to step outside your comfort zone and do things a little bit different, I think is a prerequisite, and it's something that a lot of people struggle with. And then for others, I mean, I think non-professionals who are trying to see I think it is, I just want to validate that it is scary what is happening right now and where we're headed. But I do genuinely feel optimistic about all of the awesome things that will happen in this world. So I mean, I think I said that over and over again, but just sort of my last, like, piece of thought.
Great. That was some very good advice. And thank you so much for being on our podcast. It's been wonderful. And I hope the listeners get to enjoy, all the insights and advice that you've shared with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Andreas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will talk to you later. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.